Hi there, friends. Today we are starting in on paragraph 4 of the Advent of Divine Justice. I just want to share on a personal note, I am moving from California as soon as I finish this recording, and it's just the most beautiful, loving place ever, and I'm just so grateful to have lived here. I'm using the mic because the birds are chirping so loudly, and I really was wanted to record an installment of this while I was still here in Simi Valley. All right, paragraph 4 of The Advent of Divine Justice by Shoghi Effendi. These current crises, which with ominous frequency and resistless force are afflicting an ever-increasing portion of the human race, must of necessity continue, however impermanently, to exercise in a certain measure their baleful influence upon a world community which has spread its ramifications to the utmost ends of the earth. I get the gist. I have a little note here that I failed to look up what baleful actually means. And what that whole paragraph means, but I definitely get the impetus, the implications. How can the beginnings of a world upheaval, unleashing forces that are so gravely deranging the social, the religious, the political, and economic equilibrium of organized society, throwing into chaos and confusion political systems, racial doctrines, social conceptions, cultural standards, religious associations, and trade relationships? How can such agitations on a scale so vast, so unprecedented, fail to produce any repercussions on the institutions of a faith of such tender age, whose teachings have a direct and vital bearing on each of these spheres of human life and conduct? Little wonder, therefore, if they who are holding aloft the banner of so pervasive a faith, so challenging a cause, find themselves affected by the impact of these world-shaking forces. Little wonder if they find that in the midst of this whirlpool of contending passions, their freedom has been curtailed, their tenets condemned, their institutions assaulted, their motives maligned, their authority jeopardized, their claim rejected. In the heart of the European continent, a community which, as predicted by Abdu'l-Baha, is destined by virtue of its spiritual potentialities and geographical situation to radiate the splendor of the light of the faith on the countries that surround it, has been momentarily eclipsed through the restrictions which a regime that has sorely misapprehended its purpose and function has chosen to impose upon it. Its voice, alas, is now silenced, its institutions dissolved, its literature banned, its archives confiscated, and its meetings suspended. This is 1938, remember. In Central Asia, in the city enjoying the unique distinction of having been chosen by Abdu'l-Baha as the home of the first Mashral Askar of the Baha'i world, as well as in the towns and villages of the province to which it belongs, the sore-pressed faith of Baha'u'llah as a result of extraordinary and unique vitality which, in the course of several decades, it has consistently manifested, finds itself at the mercy of forces which, alarmed at its rising power, are now bent on reducing it to utter impotence. its temple, though still used for purposes of Baha'i worship, has been expropriated, its assemblies and committees disbanded, its teaching activities crippled, its chief promoters deported, and not a few of its most enthusiastic supporters, both men and women, imprisoned. And the land of its birth, wherein reside the immense majority of its followers, a country whose capital has been hailed by Baha'u'llah as the mother of the world and the dayspring of the joy of mankind, a civil authority as yet undivorced officially from the paralyzing influences of antiquated, a fanatical, and outrageously corrupt clergy, pursues relentlessly its campaign of repression against the adherents of a faith which it has for well nigh a century striven unsuccessfully to suppress. Indifferent to the truth that the members of this innocent and proscribed community can justly claim to rank as among the most disinterested, the most competent, and the most ardent lovers of their native land, contemptuous of their high sense of world citizenship, which the advocates of an excessive and narrow nationalism can never hope to appreciate. Such an authority refuses to grant to a faith which extends its spiritual jurisdiction over well nigh 600 local communities and which numerically outnumbers the adherents of the Christian, the Jewish, or the Zoroastrian faiths in that land, the necessary legal right to enforce its laws, to administer its affairs, to conduct its schools, to celebrate its festivals, to circulate its literature, to solemnize its rites, to erect its edifices, and to safeguard its endowments. And now recently in the Holy Land itself, the heart and nerve center of a world-embracing faith, the fires of racial animosity, of fratricidal strife, of unabashed terrorism, have lit a conflagration that gravely interferes on the one hand with that flow of pilgrims that constitutes the lifeblood of that center, and suspends on the other the various projects that have been initiated in connection with the preservation and extension of the areas surrounding the sacred spots it enshrines. The safety of the small community of resident believers faced by the rising tide of lawlessness has been imperiled, its status as a neutral and distinct community indirectly challenged, and its freedom to carry out certain of its observances curtailed. A series of murderous assaults, alternating with outbursts of bitter fanaticism, both racial and religious, involving the leaders as well as the followers of the three leading faiths in that distracted country, have at times threatened to sever all normal communications, both within its confines as well as with the outside world. Perilous though the situation has been, the Baha'i holy places, the object of the adoration of a world-encircling faith, have, notwithstanding their number and exposed position, and though to outward seeming deprived of any means of protection, been vouchsafed a preservation little short of miraculous. Again, this is 1938. A world torn with conflicting passions and perilously disintegrating from within, finds itself confronted at so crucial an epoch in its history by the rising fortunes of an infant faith, a faith that at times seems to be drawn into its controversies, entangled by its conflicts, eclipsed by its gathering shadows and overpowered by the mounting tide of its passions, in its very heart, within its cradle, at the seat of its first and venerable temple, in one of its hitherto flourishing and potentially powerful centers, the as yet unemancipated faith of Baha'u'llah seems indeed to have retreated before the onrushing forces of violence and disorder to which humanity is steadily falling a victim. The strongholds of such a faith, one by one and day after day, are to outward seeming being successively isolated, assaulted, and captured. As the lights of liberty flicker and go out, as the din of discord grows louder and louder every day, as the fires of fanaticism flame with increasing fierceness in the breasts of men, as the chill of irreligion creeps relentlessly over the soul of mankind, the limbs and organs that constitute the body of the faith of Baha'u'llah appear, in varying measure, to have become afflicted with the crippling influences that now hold in their grip the whole of the civilized world. Sorry to leave on a dreary note, but this is my cutoff point. I will start with paragraph 11 next time.